I'll take 50 million up front. If that's the case, Wilder's team, bring me 50 million up front and we'll take the fight. Wilder's team, bring me 50 million up front and we'll take the fight. Bring me 50 million up front and we'll take the fight. Bring me 50 million up front and we'll take the fight.
Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypher Boxing. Let's get into this whole Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder saga again. You know, where all you AJ fanboys accuse me of being biased, I'm not objective, accuse me of being a Wilder fanboy, etc, etc. Even though I've proven in the past that I have been actually critical of Deontay Wilder, maybe not this year, but back end of last year I was a little bit critical of Deontay Wilder. And you know what? I woke up because I actually started realising what Eddie Hearn and his daddy Barry Hearn were up to. I've started, obviously, pushing a different narrative around this whole subject. And basically, you know what? It's starting to unfold. The walls are closing in. The truth's starting to reveal itself more and more each day, each week when it comes to this subject. And in older videos that I've done on this subject, you know, I've stated in the past that I believe AJ has the edge over Deontay Wilder in a fight. That I give him just the edge, not counting out Deontay Wilder at all, because he is extremely dangerous, a good fighter. I would never count him out like that, you know what I mean, or be disrespectful to Deontay Wilder in that way. But I give Anthony Joshua the edge, and I've said this time and time before, but yet still, I'm an AJ fanboy, I'm a Wilder fanboy, all that sort of nonsense comes out of your lot's mouth. So it'll be interesting to see how many of you AJ fanboys I piss off today, regards to what I'm going to say in terms of recent news, most of it coming from last week. Now, you saw the video at the beginning of this video, the little clip which I played from Deontay Wilder's social media sites. I downloaded it, and that's what he put up. And he put up a couple of tweets as well to go with it, and it read, here we go. You see people talk the good talk but are not prepared to walk through the valley of the shadow of death to come and get it. He said he once went to hell and back and he enjoyed it. Neither the devil wasn't there or he lying. So you can go to hell and back and enjoy it, but can't come and get this money in that bag to store it. Now these are just my thoughts, maybe yours too, but shit, you can tag him. Hashtag I'm eating. Now this was on the back of Anthony Joshua doing an interview last week where he stated that he doesn't want the fight to happen in America because he owes it to the UK fans to make it in the UK. He also said that he doesn't trust American judges and referees because they play these tricks and stuff like that. So he's scared of American judges and refereeing. Basically, that's what he basically said. He's scared of the refs and the judges out there in America. And he also said, I'm going to rain hell down on him. I'm going to fuck him up. So let's talk about some of these points. Let's talk about the 50 million first. Yeah, the 50 million that's on the table, plus 50% to go over to the US and fight Deontay Wilder. Anthony Joshua asked for $50 million. He said, Team Wilder, bring me $50 million and I'll take the fight. Team Wilder said, here's $50 million, guaranteed, the biggest guarantee any boxer in the history of the sport has ever been offered. All right. Plus, they've thrown an extra 50% on top of it as a sweetener. And now you're willing to turn that down. Right now, a lot of you in the past, have gone along with Eddie Hearn and his bullshit and said, there's no 50 million, prove it, where's the proof of the funds, how are they going to sign, how can you expect AJ to accept an offer when there's no contract, no terms and conditions, and blah blah blah. And I turned around and said in my last video on this subject, I said, you can accept that 50 million without terms and conditions, because all you have to do is ping out an email out to Shelley Finkel saying, we accept the 50 million offer, providing the terms and conditions of the contracts meet the requirements of my fighter, Anthony Joshua. So if they try to take you to court later on for pulling out of the deal, etc., because the terms and conditions weren't to your agreement, you could turn around at the court and say, here you go, here's an email I pinged out to the team Wilder, and they agreed to these conditions in this email, and that legally covers you. So all this excuse and this nonsense, legally we could be legally held, but it's legally binding if we verbally turn around and say, we accept the deal, blah blah blah. We'll do it in an email then. Use a bit of common sense. Yeah, if you're that good of a businessman, you would know what you're doing, and you would know that would cover you. So don't want to hear that excuse anymore, because that's what it was. It was an absolute excuse. Now, recently, Eddie Hearn has turned around and said, in the last few weeks, that he never asked for proof of funds. And a lot of you will probably go along with that narrative as well, because whatever Eddie Hearn says, you lot go along with. It's really, I'm still baffled by it. I don't understand why a lot of you believe the word of a promoter, a boxing promoter. Yeah, they're all out to con you, for crying out loud, and you still buy into it, all of it, including Eddie Hearn. And a lot of you turned around and said, a lot of you probably turned around and said and agreed, well, no, Eddie never asked for proof of funds, blah, 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 etc., etc. Well, here's some audio clips for you of where Eddie Hearn has asked for proof of funds, and then he turned around and said he never asked for proof of funds. So listen out for this one, yeah?
Of course, for fight fans, that Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder will meet in the ring. The 50 million guaranteed of sorts money on the table from an email from Deontay Wilder. Let's catch up right now with Eddie Hearn. What's the latest as the clock ticks?
Oh yes, the clock is ticking, Adam, apparently. We had an email last night from Deontay Wilder, his personal email account, offering us $50 million apparently. And I just written back and said, look, obviously we'd be very interested in that offer, but we can't rely on your email. We need to see quite a few things. Proof of funds will be nice, but more importantly, some kind of contract, some kind of formal paperwork.
And here's the audio clip now of Eddie Hearn turning around and saying that he never asked for proof of funds.
So I haven't asked to see proof of funds. I've just asked some very simple questions, which they've answered, to be fair to them, and we're talking, which is a good thing. There's regular communication. It's being kept out of the media, which is another good thing. The moment is positive. Obviously the fight hasn't been made, but we hope to make the fight in the future.
Good old contradiction. Eddie strikes again. I know you guys out there like to call him Fast Car Eddie, but I like to call him Contradiction Eddie, because that's what he does. He contradicts himself every single time, and he gets exposed by YouTube channels like myself. There you have it. Eddie Hearn saying he wanted to see proof of funds, and then turning around a few weeks later saying, I never asked to see proof of funds. I haven't asked to see proof of funds either. Do you know what I mean? The guy's full of bullshit. Yeah, all of you lot follow and believe everything he says religiously, which I still can't understand. I really don't. Anyway, we know the 50 million exists. It's there on the table. So why would you not want to take that 50 million offer? Now, here's my point. Anthony Joshua has, on numerous occasions, along with Eddie Hearn, both of them have said that AJ will knock out Deontay Wilder. They are confident that they will knock him spark out. So why are you worried about traveling to the US? Okay? Anthony Joshua says he's afraid, he's scared of the judges and the referees, pulling some dirty little tricks on him and plays on him, etc., and maybe robbing him of his belts and his position. But if you're that confident that you're going to knock out Deontay Wilder, that he's easy and you're going to knock him and you're going to blast him out of there, which is what they've been saying since last year, why the hell are you worried about traveling to the US to pick up a $50 million paycheck? Yeah, if you're that confident you're going to beat and knock out Deontay Wilder, because you shouldn't have to worry about the referees. You shouldn't worry about the referee or the judges, because you're going to knock him out, right? You're going to knock him spark out. That's Anthony Joshua's words. He's going to rain hell on him. So if you're going to do those things, if this fight's not even going to make it to the 12th round, it's not going to make it to the scorecards because you're going to knock out Deontay Wilder, why do you have to even worry or concern yourself with the referees and the judges? All you guys out there, all you AJ fanboys that say, watch, AJ's going to knock him out, Deontay Wilder, bum squad and all that sort of stuff. He's going to get knocked spark out and, AJ's going to end his career and all this nonsense that I've been hearing from you guys in comment sections and over social media and YouTube, etc., on my videos. Then why do you need to concern yourself with the ref and, the referees and the judges in America? You're taking it out of their hands, right? Go over there, knock Deontay Wilder out, pick up your $50 million, become the undisputed champion of the world, and at the same time raise your profile in the US massively. Because let's face it, AJ doesn't have much of a profile in the US, because recently he went to a basketball game. I think, was it the Lakers? I think he went to watch the LA Lakers. And the commentator, he was sitting right next to the commentating team over there in the US, and they got his name wrong. They said Anthony Johnson, not Anthony Joshua. They called him Anthony Johnson, not once, but a couple of times. So it just shows people out in America don't really know who Anthony Joshua is either. So this would raise his profile in the US, which Eddie Hearn himself has said Anthony Joshua still has a lot of work to do in terms of raising his profile in the US. So what better way to do it than go cross the pond, do what you say you were going to do because you think it's going to be easy, knock out Deontay Wilder, pick up $50 million plus 50% plus the undisputed championship in the world, and raise your profile in the US. Not only that, it's the biggest earning. It's $50 million. Now, I'm the sort of boxing fan who likes to see any fighter make as much money as they can in boxing, because they put their lives on the line, they put their health on the line, yeah, they put their families' livelihoods on the line. So why not get as much money as you can if you're going to be in a sport where you're going to risk your life? Yeah, if you're a real AJ fan, you should be encouraging Anthony Joshua to go to the US to pick up that $50 million. If you truly believe in him. But we're hearing this, in my opinion, actually, let me say this as well. In my opinion, I think Anthony Joshua wants that $50 million. He would take that $50 million and he would go to the US and fight Deontay Wilder. But unfortunately, Eddie Hearn and Barry Hearn are both in either ear of Anthony Joshua and Rob Mcracken, his trainer and manager, and they've swayed his decision again. You know, this is a massive paycheck for him. It's a great opportunity. And do you know what? He would get so much more credit if he crossed the pond and knocked out Deontay Wilder in his own backyard. Well, maybe not in his backyard, but on US soil. So not only do you pick up $50 million plus 50%, right? Not only do you raise your profile in the US and become a global superstar in boxing, right? Yeah, he is a star in boxing, but he's not global, because the US, a lot of people in the US don't know him, and that's the biggest market out there. Not only do you become undisputed champion of the world, but you get even more credit for crossing the pond and knocking out the American heavyweight champion of the world. Why would you not want to do that? And I don't believe this whole, oh, I'm doing it for the fan thing. I don't. It's fear. Fear has set into Anthony Joshua, which makes you question his confidence level. Now, on the subject of this $50 million offer, there was an article by the Express newspaper here in the UK, came out last week, this article, and I'm going to read a quote from Eddie Hearn, and this is what he had to say. One thing is for absolute certain, AJ wants Wilder next. He's made that clear. He also feels, though, after talking to Rob Mcracken, his trainer and manager, that this is a fight that should be delivered in the UK. One, for the fans, and two, he feels like he's earned that right. AJ's not really swayed by an extra 10 or 15 million pounds. He'd rather do the fight over here in front of his fans. So if you weren't swayed by the extra 10 or 15 million, why'd you ask for $50 million? You asked for $50 million, they gave you $50 million, and now you're saying you're not swayed by it. Which is it? Contradiction Eddie strikes again. Alright? Do you know what I mean? It's all bullshit. Let's be honest. Yeah? Let's be real. Yeah? It's all bullshit. There's always a reason or an excuse to delay this fight any further or make it more difficult to make the fight, and it's always coming from Team AJ. Never from Team Wilder, it's always from Team AJ. Now, a couple of weeks ago, this all set after the Tony Bellew, David Haye fight. You saw it, you know, you saw... actually, you know what? Let me play it for you. Let me play the clip from Anthony Joshua ringside of that fight.
Any update with Wilder?
Yeah, I think the fight's going to happen for sure.
Yeah? Confident?
Yeah, very confident.
50 mil, baby?
Yeah. But I ain't selling my soul for 50 mil.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's where I'm coming from.
You keep us updated on what's going on?
Yeah. Have you heard anything from Wilder?
Well, only what Eddie's saying every day. That's, you know.
What from their side?
literally everything we hear is about what's going on is from what Eddie Hearn's saying. So, but you're confident that'll be your next fight, or?
Very confident.
Now, you heard AJ there. AJ turned around and said that, you know, he sounded quite confident that the fight was going to happen. And it was going to be for that 50 million price tag. He also mentioned about, you know, oh, I'm not going to sell my soul for $50 million. Well, you're not really selling your soul for $50 million when you're the one who put that price tag out there. And then when that price tag is presented to you and said, here you go, here's the 50 million you asked for. And if you took it, you're not selling your soul, are you? Because that's what you asked for. But it looked like all roads were leading to that way, to that, you know, to that $50 million offer being accepted and signed, sealed and delivered maybe in a couple of weeks from then. But of course, I think it was the week after or that week where Barry Hearn did an interview, and I did a video on this where he turned around and said that he was going to present some options. The real boss of Matchroom Boxing, Barry Hearn, might I say, he turned around and said that he was going to present some options to Anthony Joshua, saying that this is how much you make if you fight Povetkin, this is how much you make if you fight Jarrell Miller, this is how much you make if you fight Deontay Wilder, this is how much you make if you fight Deontay Wilder in the US, etc, etc. And he also said that he would be advising Anthony Joshua to delay the fight against versus Deontay Wilder for another 12 months. That he was going to try and convince him that let's delay it a little bit. Let's wait another 12 months before we make this fight with Wilder. And here's an audio clip of Eddie Hearn again, who's turned around and actually said that, yeah, that's what his dad wants. His daddy Barry Hearn, that's what he actually wants and actually has, in a sense, advised Anthony Joshua. So here's the clip.
He thinks that the fight gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I quite like to do it now. Joshua would probably like to do it now, but he also wants to fight in the UK because he feels like we've earned that right. You know, we've built something very special there, and he doesn't feel like fans should be shortchanged to miss out on them seeing the fight live. But they've made us a good offer, which we're considering many aspects of the offer, and we continue to talk.
And when he says he is referring to his father, Barry Hearn there, right? The interviewer asked him basically, hey, I hear you and your dad have a difference in opinion on this whole fight and this situation. And he turned around and said, like you said, Eddie heard it there, he feels the fight gets bigger and bigger over time and let's wait another 12 months. And Eddie Hearn's like, I want the fight now. AJ wants the fight now. Now, I will link that article again in the description of this video so you can read it yourself. But he also states, Barry Hearn Barry Hearn also states in that article, not only did he turn around and say that we should delay the fight by 12 months, but he also stated, he said that he thinks the fight gets bigger and bigger over time and it generates more money, right? He also stated in that article that you can't do what the fans want. Yeah, that the fans are always going to want now, they want the fights now, but if you do what the fans ask you to do, you'll end up broke. That's what he said in the article. You end up broke if you listen to the fans and do things when the fans want it, when they want things to happen, right? If you do it when the fans are demanding for a fight and they're demanding for the fight immediately, you'll end up broke that way. So you've got to be smart, etc. And you've got to let these things build and marinate and all that nonsense. Okay? But now suddenly, it's all about, oh, well, we owe it to the UK fans to make it in America. No, sorry, to make it in the UK. We owe it to the UK fans. You know, we're doing this for the fans. But you weren't saying that 2 weeks ago. You said that you shouldn't listen to the fans. That you should make the fight when it's, you know, financially more beneficial for you as a fighter, where you can make more money from it, right? And you've just been offered $50 million guaranteed plus 50%. Do you understand? So here we go, contradicting themselves time and time again. Barry Hearn says don't listen to fans, make the fans wait another 12 months, make more money from it. Now you're turning around and saying, oh well, AJ wants, you know, he wants to do it for the fans. You know, we've all decided that, you know, we owe it to the UK fans to make it in the UK. Make up your mind. Which is it? I've said this before. Make up your mind. Come up with a story and stick to it. Because one thing I've always said is that Team AJ have continuously contradicted themselves, while Team Wilder's story has always been the same all the way through. It's never changed. And this is not me, being biased or being unfair or, picking sides. This is me telling you the truth, how it is. Okay, so let's say the fight happens in the UK. You know what? I don't care. If it happens in the UK, it happens in the UK. Alright? If AJ and all you fanboys out there are willing to allow your favourite fighter to lose out on his biggest payday in his career, to secure his future financially, his family's future financially, you're happy to let that go, fine. If the fight happens in the UK, yeah, like I said, I'm all for a fighter making as much money as they possibly can. But okay, but if the fight happens in the UK, which it looks like it's gonna now, yeah, then you have to pay the toll to get Deontay Wilder to cross the pond to come to the UK. And you need to be respectful of Deontay Wilder, because he's shown you, in a sense, he's shown you a bit of respect. You asked for $50 million, they came up with $50 million. Now, you kind of insulted him by saying, here's $12.5 million flat fee last time round. You need to give a fair and respectful percentage split if you want Deontay Wilder to come across. Now, he's asking for 40%. If you don't care about money, right? Anthony Joshua doesn't care about losing, 10, 15 million pounds or dollars or whatever it is, losing $20 million. He doesn't mind taking $20 million less and making the fight in the UK. You shouldn't really care about paying Deontay Wilder 40% of the split, should you? Because it's all about the legacy. It's all about making the fight for the UK fans here in the UK. You're willing to make all these sacrifices, right? So you shouldn't be complaining about making a 40% offer to Deontay Wilder this time around, right? Because you don't care about money. Let me play that old clip of yours that I like to play in my videos from Eddie Hearn. Here you go.
But Josh, honestly, he really isn't bothered about the money. But Josh, honestly, he really isn't bothered about the money. But Josh, honestly, he really isn't bothered about the money. But Josh, honestly, he really isn't bothered about the money.
So, like you said, AJ's not bothered about the money. Offer Deontay Wilder 40%, get him across the pond, and let's see the fight. Because I don't care. If AJ wants to let go of $50 million, he wants to take $20 million less to make the fight in the UK, fine. That's his business. But I think it's a mistake, but alright, fine. Okay. As long as we see the fight, that's what matters. But Deontay Wilder's made it perfectly clear that he wants 40% to come to the UK. So that means you've got to pay him 40%. He's shown you the respect. You asked for $50 million. He gave you $50 million. You've turned it down, or you're not interested in it because you want to fight in the UK. Now you want Deontay Wilder to come across the pond. You need to pay him 40% of the split. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's talk about these comments about, the American judges and the American referees, etc. They play games and these tricks, and basically saying that, I'll get robbed in America if the fight goes to decision. Now, I already made enough comments about this earlier on in the video, where I said if you're so confident you're going to knock out your opponent, why would you worry about the referees and the judges? You're taking it out of their hands by knocking out Deontay Wilder, right? Okay, let's talk about judging here in the UK, refereeing here in the UK. It's not like we haven't seen dodgy decisions and dodgy refereeing here in this country. Right, let's go back a few years. Everyone remember the fight? Ricky Burns versus Ray Beltran? Ricky Burns was outboxed in that fight. He was beaten easily. Right, the fight went to the decision and Ricky Burns still got the decision over Ray Beltran. Ray Beltran was robbed here by the UK judges in that fight against Ricky Burns. That's a good example right there. Let's talk about most recently. Let's talk about the AJ fights recently. His last two fights. Carlos Takam. Yeah. Premature stoppage. The referee stopped the fight. Carlos Takam immediately looked up at him, and you could tell from his eyes he wasn't out of it. He looked at the ref and blatantly just turned around and said to him, he goes, "What are you doing?" A premature stoppage right there. Okay? By the referee. He could have gone the last 2 rounds easy. But he was robbed of that because obviously they wanted to protect Anthony Joshua's knockout streak. And at the same time, yeah, they didn't want to, it would have been embarrassing for a last minute replacement to step in and take AJ 12 rounds. Take him the distance. Let's look at the Joseph Parker fight. Joseph Parker, first of all, his comments at the end of the fight, where he said the referee barely spoke English. Anthony Joshua obviously turned around and said, well, their English, it sounded fine to me. He spoke fine to me when he was giving me instructions in the changing rooms. But of course, if the shoe had been on the other foot, and let's say AJ had lost by decision, would he have been saying the same thing? Probably not. All right. That's, 50-50. We don't know who's telling the truth there, right? What happened? Let's look at what happened in the ring. Joseph Parker trying to fight on the inside. Referee wouldn't allow it. Yeah, it was risky for Joseph Parker to do that as well, because we know Anthony Joshua has that uppercut, that wicked uppercut of his, which he used on Vladimir Klitschko. But that was clearly what Joseph Parker wanted to do, and the referee didn't allow him to do that. Quickly stepped in and broke him up straight away. Didn't even give him a chance to work out of the clinches and stuff. Let's look at Anthony Joshua in that fight when his tape was hanging off his glove. The referee didn't stop. Usually what happens in those situations, the referee says, time out, stop, all right, come with me, takes him to his corner and says, right, put the tape back on properly. Tape up his gloves again, retape them. And then time in, fight. Anthony Joshua in that situation took his own time out. He was standing, he looked at his tape hanging off and walked to his corner himself. In that situation, the referee didn't even say time out or stop or break or anything like that. Joseph Parker had every right to walk up to Anthony Joshua around him and knock him in the face if he wanted to. What did the referee do? Instead of saying, "Oh, where are you going? I haven't called a break or a stoppage," he went chasing after him and said, "All right, let's get your glove taped up again." I mean, you called your own time out for crying out loud. And at that time, Joseph Parker was having a bit of success in that round at that moment in time. But AJ just walked off and the referee allowed him to do it. Talk about dodgy refereeing. So when you make these comments that, oh, the judges in America can't be trusted and the referees in America can't be trusted, they can't be trusted here. That's boxing. We see it all over in all sports in every country when it comes to this sport. But Deontay Wilder, the difference between AJ and Deontay Wilder will come over here, and he said it in the past, if he comes over here to the UK to fight Anthony Joshua, he won't leave it up to the judges, because he knows if it goes to the decision, if it goes 12 rounds and it ends up going to the scorecards, he won't, and say he outboxes Anthony Joshua, he won't get the decision. It will still go to Anthony Joshua. He knows that. So he's turned around and said, I will go to the UK, and the only way I'm going to win this fight is by knocking AJ out, and that's what I'm going to do. That's champ talk. I repeat, that is champ talk. It's how a champion talks. I don't understand how AJ's talking at the moment, because he's talking with a lot of fear. Deontay Wilder even gave that advice to Joseph Parker. Do not allow the fight to go to 12 rounds. Do not allow it to go to the scorecards. You will not get a decision on the scorecards. And it was a closer fight than a lot of people out there and what the judges were scoring it anyway. So, in my opinion, making the comments that you can't trust the referees out in America and the referees out in America, you can't trust them here in the UK. But at least Deontay Wilder's willing to turn around and say, hey, I'll come to the UK and I ain't going to let the ref or the judges rob me. I'm just going to knock this kid out. And that's what Anthony Joshua's attitude should be. Well, he's talking like that, saying that he's going to knock out Deontay Wilder. So I don't see why, again, like I said, I don't see why you're so fearful. Why are you so scared of the American referees and the judges? All you fans are guaranteeing me in your comments when you make comments in my videos. All of you, I've seen you all over YouTube, all over social media. Anthony Joshua has been talking it as well. Eddie Hearn's been talking it as well. Barry Hearn's been talking it as well. That AJ will knock out Deontay Wilder, guaranteed. So if it's a guaranteed knockout, why won't you go to America and just fight him and pick up $50 million while you're at it? See, it doesn't make sense. It just shows that you're not confident that you're actually going to knock him out. That is a part of you thinks that, oh, this fight might actually go all the way, 12 rounds. Right? Means there's a lack of belief there. And worry. And a bit of fear. He's talked about his fear of losing as well. Before the Joseph Parker fight, in the lead up, he was talking about fear of losing and then having to come back from a loss and etc. and all this sort of stuff, that he was really fearful of losing Anthony Joshua. I don't understand it. For a guy who sounds so confident at times, and then he'll say random things like this and start revealing how full of fear he is. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. But in regards to the comments, and when it comes to the whole you can't trust the referees in America and the judges in America, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to say, if you're guaranteeing me and you're guaranteeing everyone, your fans, the whole world, that you're going to knock out Deontay Wilder and you're going to F him up, then you shouldn't be concerned about the referees or the judges in America, because you're going to knock out Deontay Wilder, right? That's what you're guaranteeing everyone. I mean, that's my take on the whole comment about judges and referees. Simple as that. You say you shouldn't be worried about the judges and referees in America if you're guaranteeing that you're going to knock out Deontay Wilder. If you truly believe that's the only way this fight is going to end, with you standing over Deontay Wilder after you've knocked him out. That's the way I see it. And as for the final comment, where he said he's going to F up Deontay Wilder, well, you know what? Stop talking it and let's see it. Make the fight. Offer him the 40%. Get him over to the UK. Let's see the fight. Clearly, you're not going to go to America. We know that. So let's see it. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop talking it now. You know what it's going to take to get Deontay Wilder to the UK. He knew what it was going to take for him to get you to the US. That's why he offered you $50 million. Plus threw an extra 50% on top of that. So you now know what it's going to cost to get Deontay Wilder across. It's going to cost a 40%. 40% of the split. So make the fight, send out the contract, get him to sign it, get him to the UK, and let's see it happen. Now finally, let's talk about this tweet that was put out by Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Rubinsky, where he said, "We've come up with a very good financial proposal for Eddie Hearn to bring the Povetkin versus Joshua fight to Russia, as well as with our conditions to host the fight in the UK. If we don't reach an agreement until the end of the month, we'll have to get ready to go to purse bid." Now, a lot of you might not know this, but Rubinsky has a lot of money. Yeah, he is loaded, this guy. I think the guy's a billionaire. I don't know what he's quite into. Rumours of that he's hooked up with the Russian mafia and stuff like that, and maybe a bit of oil and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, look, that's besides the point. The fact is, the guy has loads of money. All right, and if this fight was to go to a purse bid, it wouldn't be good for Team AJ or Eddie Hearn, because I'd be really shocked if Eddie Hearn could outbid Alexander Povetkin's promoter, Rubinsky. Okay? Because if it goes to purse bid, I'm telling you now, most likely Povetkin's team is going to win that one. And they will have full control of the fight, which means the fight could take place in Russia. Now, if AJ goes out and fights, now a lot of you will say, well, it's a purse bid, so he lost the purse bid, he didn't have a choice, he had to fight in Russia. Well, he could have avoided that by accepting the $50 million from Deontay Wilder and fight in America. Because what's the difference? If you lose the purse bid against Povetkin, you're going to have to go abroad and fight anyway. And you're quite clearly fearful of fighting abroad. So you might as well just make the fight with Deontay Wilder, take his $50 million and fight in America. Right? Sorry, but you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. Why would you put yourself in a position where you may be forced to fight in Russia against Povetkin, because it looks like it's going to go to a purse bid if they can't agree terms, which I think Rubinsky, who's Alexander Povetkin's promoter will probably win because he's got so much money behind him. And it'll probably be for less money as well, when you think about it, because it will be the purse bit that gets split. When you can go to America and fight Deontay Wilder for $50 million and maybe even actually have a say in the terms and conditions of the contract and have a bit of control. Do you get what I'm trying to say? All the moves that AJ and his team are making doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me at all. And just one more point I want to make, okay, is that with all you fans who are so happy to see AJ reject the $50 million offer and making the fight here in the UK, no, you know what? None of you have actually stopped to think, you know, say this fight doesn't happen next. Say they can't agree terms and conditions. All right, and let's say AJ goes and fights Povetkin or Jaramillo next, which are the fighters he's lining up. Yeah. What if AJ gets seriously hurt in his next fight, or seriously injured in his next fight? Career-threatening or career-ending injury. I'm talking about here. He just lost out on $50 million. We all know that boxing is a dangerous sport, that fighters put their lives on the line, they put their health on the line for our entertainment. And that's why I believe fighters should get paid as much money as they possibly can. Yeah? This is the biggest guarantee made to any fighter in the history of the sport. Hell, even Floyd Mayweather only used to get $30 million guaranteed for his fights. And AJ's getting offered $50 million. You know, you don't know what's going to happen in the next fight. You don't know what's around the corner. Especially with all these fighters. And this is an opportunity for him to bag $50 million on top of that. And let's say he goes into his life, like I said, if he gets injured or seriously injured in his next fight, that's it. Let's say his career ends because of that injury. He just lost out on his biggest payday, $50 million, to secure his own future and his family's future, because he's got a boy as well. He's got a young boy. Think about that. If you were real AJ fans, yeah, you wouldn't be discouraging him from that. You would be encouraging AJ to do that. Because let's face it, here in the UK, we've seen some examples of that. All right, if you're an old school boxing fan, you will know the fighters I'm about to refer to. So let's talk about Michael Watson versus Chris Eubank. There's an example of a good fighter, a talented fighter, seriously getting injured in the ring. Career ending and life threatening. All right. Another example. Gerald McLennan versus Nigel Benn. Career ending and life threatening injury. Gerald McLennan's a really sad story because that guy walked away with literally nothing from that fight. His payday was virtually nothing. I think in the end, if you go and watch the documentary, I think between Frank Warren and Don King, they paid him something like $250,000 for the fight. And now his sister has to take care of him. And the way she takes care of him in terms of money and funding, she has to raise money through a foundation she started for Gerald to help raise money to look after him and take care of him. Boxing's not looking after Gerald McLennan. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And this is what my point is. When these opportunities arise, you need to take them because you don't know what's around the corner. I'm not saying I want AJ to get seriously hurt or I'm hoping that he'll get seriously hurt. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying though is there is a risk there. That's why this sport is so dangerous. That's why you should be happy. You should be encouraging fighters and you should want fighters to make as much money as they possibly can make throughout their career. And this is an opportunity for AJ to make $50 million plus 50%. But $50 million guaranteed, his biggest payday. $50 million will last you and your family and a generation and generations after that a lifetime. That's all I got to say on that. Right, that's all I got for you on this one, guys. You know, I've made my points. I'm sure a lot of you are going to jump on there and do your usual negativity and make ridiculous comments and say I'm biased and all that nonsense. I don't really care, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's my take on the current situation between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder negotiations. As always, guys, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.